Good evening. Happy Wednesday. Today's Wednesday, right? Is it Wednesday? I'm losing track of the days. It's just been crazy. Still working with Ayana and her not feeling so great and her lack of sleep and all of that. It's been really a hectic few weeks. So say hello when you hop on. I was supposed to go to Orange Theory this evening, but that was quickly put to a halt. I was getting ready to walk out the door. Ayana had hit her head, nothing crazy, but just enough where it was like she'd cried for a long time and didn't want mom to leave. So anyway, say hello, and I hope you can hear me and see me well. Let me know that you can. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Rosalie. I don't have my phone to do my usual sharing, so I will just share this after the fact. So go ahead and feel free to share on your wall as well. The more people we can help, the better this world will be, right? So, okay. So we're going to talk about a topic that I think should be talked more about, but I don't think that it is, because I don't think people are as aware or even educated in the arena. And so I say it all the time, and I'll say it again, that people think of weight loss as a math problem. They think of making this huge deficit in their caloric intake, or, they will create a deficit with the amount of exercise and a deficit in their food. And then they wonder why they're going into a plateau and then gaining weight. And then what used to work isn't anymore. And then they feel stuck and all of this stuff. But not to fear, I'm going to educate you a little bit on all of this and help you to understand why your body does what it does. And this is exactly what I specialize in. Okay, so I help you to understand what goes on and what you need to pay attention to. Okay. So here's the deal. When people think of I need to lose weight, like I said, they only think of calories. They don't think of lifestyle, and they don't think of their hormones. And that is like you're getting a taste of how I take somebody out of hormonal havoc through lifestyle. And so what ends up happening is people think that they need to exercise more, eat less, just like I talked about. They think that their weight loss is going to come from this major deficit. But what ends up happening is that you're putting your body under such crazy stress that you're not giving it the recovery that it needs. Nobody ever thinks about that. Everybody always feels this tremendous guilt when they eat something or when they're giving their body rest, when the funny thing is that could be the very thing that your body actually needs. And so oftentimes people are walking around like ticking time bombs, maybe not feeling it so much up here, but the body is in constant, there's the parasympathetic and the sympathetic mode. And if your body is in constant stress mode, the fight or flight, then you're basically like saturated in cortisol, And so at the end of the day, if you're not eating enough, right there alone, you are putting your body under stress. Okay. And stress, like I said, will hinder and not, it will not help things. It will definitely hinder things. And when it comes to the cortisol issue, right? So that's one major thing. So I have some notes here, so I want to make sure that I kind of go down here. So not eating enough ultimately will affect your hormones, your stress levels, and like I had mentioned, the recovery. Okay, so most people are not giving their body the recovery that it needs. They're constantly dieting. So I believe, and if I haven't, maybe you're not aware, but I was one of those people that was constantly putting my body under constant stress and not giving it the recovery that it needed. So kind of like my body going through a pregnancy recently, that was pretty stressful on the body, right? And so I am still in a recovery state. So a lot of time, and I'm coming out of it, and I'll tell you how, but a lot of people need to put their body in the recovery because they're in a recovery debt. And so things that matter are your sleep. And if you're not sleeping properly, and you find yourself maybe waking up a lot at night, for example, a client just told me that the other day. And so I said, well, we need to look at your cortisol issue. This could be a cortisol issue. That right there immediately gives me the red flag that if somebody is getting a second wind at night and is wired yet tired, then I know that we have to look into the cortisol. Okay. Your food intake needs to support the amount of stress that you're putting on the body. And once again, that is, exercising more and eating less is not the way to go, because obviously if you're doing something along those lines, the food is not going to be supporting the amount of exercise. So I know I was guilty of that years ago. If you're on my email distribution, I shared a story about how when I was in my earlier 20s, I thought I was doing really good when I was exercising 3 times a day and eating a potato. I mean, come on, crazy lady, right? That's nuts. So my body was in constant craziness, constant stress, right? And so my food obviously did not support the amount of stress that I was putting on the body. And when I mean stress, yes, exercise is stress. So like if you're a runner, which oftentimes, and I don't mean anything against runners or anything like that, because I personally enjoy running, but I am very cautious about how I do the running now. I don't distance run. I'm more so like in bursts, because I know that if I go for long periods of time with running, then that's actually creating a lot more stress on the body. And that's the last thing that I want to do. Okay. So, the bottom line is that we need to think about things like, hold on a second, Colin. Hold on.
I think Blake broke the microwave again.
Okay, well, I can't do it right now, honey.
Because I've been trying to make chicken nuggets and
okay, well,
3 minutes.
I will be there in like 10 minutes. So, at the end of the day, we need to really balance out the hormones, whether, the cortisol, the testosterone levels, all of that, because those are things that definitely need to be considered when you are just living day-to-day life. And so you need to just pay attention to things like the way that you're performing, the way that you're sleeping. And when I mean performing, for example, like at the gym, how is your performance? How are you able to really, how is your output when you are at the gym? Do you feel good? Do you have the energy? Do you feel like a wet rag? Do you feel like you're just super tired? Your body will tell you these cues. And like I said, the one thing, especially you ladies, I get this all the time where people will say, I feel wired and tired at night. They'll get that dip during the day, and then later on at night, they get the second wind, and then they can't go to sleep at night. And so I know for a fact that's a cortisol issue. Okay. So when you're not eating enough, you will stall and stop results. There's no question. So you might in the very beginning you might see a little bit of results, like, oh, I lost a couple pounds and whatever, and that's generally water weight. Or sometimes you might see a little bit more than that. And then all of a sudden you're like at this crazy plateau. And that basically what happens is your body adapts, and your body adapts constantly all day long in things that we do. So an example of adaptation, just to kind of give you a simple explanation, or even just like, oh, okay, I understand what she means now, is here's an example. Like when I would teach a client, when I was personal training, when I would teach them how to do, let's say, a lunge for the first time. The lunge, the very first one, would be kind of disastrous if they hadn't done it before. They would land on their toe and they would push off from their toe, and then it would, they'd have this crazy balance issue. And then as they did a couple more, they started to get better at it, right? So we all know those things. So even like if you do a push-up, if you do a squat, or, if you're riding a bike, an example like that is after you do it a couple of times or for a couple of minutes, what happens? It becomes easier. It becomes, oh, I got this. This isn't so bad after all. What it is your body is adapting. You have to remember that this is a machine basically that has been developing for millions of years. And so our body is actually created to adapt and to adjust and to, constantly be saying, hey, I'm getting to you. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm on to you, that kind of thing. And so your body is constantly adjusting. So we have to always remember that. Now, the trend generally is that people will go on a diet. Okay. They'll go on a diet and then they might lose the weight. And then they won't do any recovery work. They'll just continue to keep dieting because they're like, oh, I'm doing great. I've lost so much weight, da, da, da. And then they just keep, reducing their calories, which in essence, they're just putting more stress on the body. Then the plateau comes. And then you might go in the other direction where you start to increase your calories in a tremendous way instead of maybe gradually, which I'll talk about gradual calorie intake in a moment, how you can do it in a strategic way. And then the person gains weight. And then what happens is they're, just kind of in this destructive kind of cycle, and they just feel like a mess. And they're in hormonal havoc because of everything that they have put their body through. Now, my personal story, as far as this goes, I was always in the mindset of, because I grew in the fitness industry when I went through all the phases, right? Of don't eat fat, don't eat carbs, don't do this, don't do that, demonizing things. Okay. And, you got to exercise more and eat less. That's it, and yeah, you do have to create a deficit in order to lose. However, you have to do it strategically, and you really need to lose weight very slowly. However, most people won't allow that. They want this instant gratification and they want now. But if you lose it slowly, then, and if you find an eating style that fits within your lifestyle and the way that you function and the way that your life flows, then it will be sustainable and permanent. But most people always want to go into this, oh my God, I feel like a 2-ton Tessie. I need to lose weight right now. I need to snap my fingers and I need to lose immediately. And they're not just giving their body that time that it constantly needs. So what does somebody do in this circumstance? Well, kind of, what I've had to go through and what I'm currently in. And it's taken a while. So I was constantly putting myself in a position of, reducing the calories, exercising, blah, blah, blah. And this is before I ever even got educated in the whole hormonal world. And that whole journey for me started a couple years ago when I learned that I had Hashimoto's disease, and I wanted to know why. I thought, this doesn't just happen. I did something for this to happen to me, so I want to figure out why. So that's how that whole journey started. And it just, one thing leads to another, and that's where I got, certified as a hormonal fat loss coach, and have continued my education since, and I'm still continuing my education. So the latest education piece that I'm working on, and I'm actually currently working with clients on as well, is I have expanded into macro coaching. And macro coaching is something that I had started to get into because it is something that I learned that I personally needed, and that has absolutely 1000% helped me tremendously. So never in a million years would I have thought that, because I had always looked at macros as something that, oh, that's what bodybuilders do. People just count that stuff just because, they're dieting down for a show. That's not something for an everyday person. Literally, I've probably had a conversation with some of you, and I've probably said that, but I don't believe that anymore at all. So reverse dieting is what I have been doing and what I've been working on with several of my clients. And I've talked about this, I think, a couple of my lives ago, where I am putting them in a reverse diet. And why? Why is that? It's because what happened to myself and even them is how I know this is because of what's going on with them, all of these red flags. So for example, I was having a conversation with a couple of my clients and I was talking about how there are certain things that we need to be paying attention to, like an investigator, right? So I teach my clients to basically be fat loss detectives, and I need them to become investigators of their own body and their biofeedback. So there's not one thing that you look at. So when people are constantly looking at the scale, they're only looking at that one piece. So that's kind of like a CSI investigator going in and looking at a murder scene and saying, oh, that person was sitting there, so that person was the one who killed Sally Sue, without looking at any of the other evidence. So it's the same type of thing, right? You have to look at all of the pieces and what is going on and what's fitting and what's not, and all of that stuff. So that's where, all of this really comes into play. And so after I had my baby, so let me just kind of back up. After I had my late 40s baby, and she's now 15 months, I was like, oh, the weight will come off like that. No big deal. Wasn't the case. I gained, I think it was 55 or 60, just like I did with the other boys. I have 2 boys and a girl. And, but this pregnancy I enjoyed. I slept a lot. I kind of reduced my exercise, all that stuff. But I thought, it'll be fine. 9 months postpartum, I was still carrying 30 pounds. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And, that's when I have also understood my hormones and understood that I was like, okay, things need to be woken up here. Like my ghrelin hormone, your ghrelin, if you're not hungry, if you're not, if you don't have that ghrelin hormone telling you, hey, I'm hungry, then that is an issue right there too. There's leptin. The leptin is basically the brake pedal as to when you are full. Some people are leptin resistant, and that means that they never get the signal that they're full, so they overeat. Like my son, my autistic son, sometimes I feel like, God, you know what? I think he might have that, because he will eat and eat and eat and eat sometimes. And it's kind of scary, right? So there are certain things that I look at. So I knew that I needed to recruit some help and somebody that was a little bit more knowledgeable and had a little more experience with like the macros, because I knew that if I went the macro route, that it would help to wake up my hormones. And I knew I needed to reverse diet, meaning that I realized that I was not feeding myself properly for, probably several months, years, whatever, because it was the trend that I had been in for several years. Then getting pregnant, hormones going in havoc, whatever. But even if I wasn't pregnant, it's still something that I would say 99% of the people that I work with now that have approached me about, hey, I want to go a little bit deeper into my nutrition. Because usually when somebody comes to me, there's phases that I take them through. The first phase is understanding what they're identified with and also figuring out what foods don't work for them. We have to go through that phase first. Then we kind of up level into the macros, because then they know what foods work for them. They know what foods don't. And then we can, break things down appropriately. So anyway, I didn't mean to go on this whole tangent about macros, but it's really important, because what reverse diet is it means that you have to increase your calories to basically reset your metabolism. So your body is basically saying, okay, I'll go ahead and let you lose weight now. Okay. So for example, my average caloric intake was pretty low, and it wasn't scary low, but it was not, it didn't cover according to the stress that I was putting on my body. Do you see what I'm saying? And so it wasn't in alignment. So then we had to gradually increase my calories over several months. During this time, I did not step on the scale. I didn't measure myself, but I'll tell you what, I never felt better. I never performed better, because I was finally properly fueled for the stress I was putting on my body. I didn't feel like a wet rag at the gym. I didn't feel like I was brain foggy, all of that stuff. And so then once I got to a point of what's called caloric maintenance, meaning that was the level of calories that my body needed in order to function on a day-to-day basis, including the amount of stress that I was putting on it. Once I got to that point, feeling good, my hunger level coming up, because my hunger was basically at a 0, it went all the way up to a 4. So that meant, okay, the hormones are activating, things are starting to work again, well-oiled machine. Then you go in cycles as far as reducing the calories so that you're not stressing the body out continuously. Okay, does that make sense? So it's pretty fascinating. I'm super grateful for the education that I have gotten on it, and the fact that I personally have been able to experience it in a very healthy way, and not in a sense that I was like dieting down for a show or something. I've never been that person anyway. But you just never know. Maybe some of you have experienced counting macros. Maybe you've tried it on your own, but you don't necessarily know like what is for what, because calories, some people believe, calorie is a calorie is a calorie. No, it's not. All calories are not created equal. Okay. So, fat intake is super important when it comes to your hormones. Some people are not eating enough fat to really even support proper hormone function. So there's all of these things that need to be considered. And, I have some people say, I was just doing 30% this and 10% that and 20% this and or, whatever the breakdown was, but there's no education or science behind it. They're just finding some formula online and saying, let's just do this percentage, but they're not understanding what is possibly going on. Like when I first started this whole journey, for me, I was like, I look at food so differently. Like I had already made the shift of food being fuel, not pleasure. But now I look at food as intention and purpose. Okay, intention and purpose, that it's not just like, that's a calorie and that's a calorie and I just got to meet my calories. Like when I eat something, there is intention and purpose behind it. It's like, I remember saying to my coach, gosh, I can't believe how I used to eat in the past. Like there was just no intention and purpose behind the fuel that I was putting in my body. Now there's intention and purpose. I know exactly why I'm eating that, how that makes me feel, what the intention and the purpose is of eating this food. It makes a big difference. So at the end of the day, I know I went on a big long tangent on the macros, but that is something that I totally believe in, but I'm also a huge believer in intuitive eating. However, like I said, when I bring on a client, we generally will go through the intuitive lifestyle coaching, that sort of thing, because if your sleep isn't in order, if your stress isn't being managed, if you don't have your clutter organized, if you don't have all of those things, if you don't have your time managed and you think you're going to lose weight, good luck, because it's not going to work. You need to make sure that you have your lifestyle habits in order and that you are consistent with it. Okay. Hence this challenge. I am giving you some of my secret sauce. I am sharing with you the things that you need to set yourself up for permanent success, right? However, everybody is individual. So this is why, when people say, do you do meal plans? Absolutely fucking not. And I say the F-bomb in there because I am so against them. They're horrendous. Now, what I just taught you, right? All that stuff, everything that I just taught you, if I were to hand you a meal plan, it makes 0 sense because your needs and my needs are completely different. So what I write out on a piece of paper for you, your body could be like, oh no, no, this rice makes me tired. Don't feed me rice. Or, I could say you need to have quinoa or something. What if you don't like it? What if your body doesn't digest it? Like I don't do very well with quinoa. You know, I mean, there's certain things I'm just like, it just mind blowing to me when people think, oh, I got this meal plan. You know, if somebody says, I will give you a meal plan, run. Run, because the best meal plan for you is the one that you create. And that's what I do is I work with my clients. We create a meal plan. I give them guidelines as far as, hey, you know, these are foods that are going to be a little on the starchier side that might make you tip over and might make you tired and fatigued and, you know, that sort of thing. But I would never in a million years tell you what foods to eat, because I don't know what you like. And your body is also going to tell you what it likes and what it doesn't as well, you know? So it's super, super important that you stay true to your body's needs, that you stay true to your personal preferences and your likes, because what you do on a daily basis is something that you have to look at it like I am, how do I word this? You have to look at, like I said, your food with intention and purpose. And you also have to look at your actions and everything that you're doing and how is this going to affect me in a day? So like if I decided to hang up with you guys and drink a bottle of wine, that is pure. I'm putting myself in a position of knowing that for 10 days, I will feel like shit. I will look like shit. My thoughts will be like shit. I will ache. I will have puffy pockets underneath my eyes. You know what I'm saying? And so I know, we all know those foods that do those certain things to us, right? And so those are the choices that we make and consequences that we have to live with. So in other words, what I'm saying is that the choice that you make and the foods that you eat today are going to affect you later. So the way that I look and feel right now has everything to do with the food that I ate days ago. Does that make sense? So you have to think about that. Eat with intention and purpose. What is it that you desire? Who do you desire to become? Who do you want to continue to be? You know, maybe you are in a position of already, you know, fulfilled, and you have this great self-love and you love your size and you love your energy and the way that you feel. Great. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing and don't mess with it. But if you find that your energy and your vibration, as far as your thoughts, your thinking, your, you know, the way that you're doing things, the people you're hanging out with, the stuff you're pulling in your life, that matters. That when you start pulling in garbage, you need to look around as to what you're eating, because you could be pulling your vibration down. Okay, so if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, if you're eating lower quality foods, trust me, you're taking your vibration tune, you're changing your radio station down somewhere where you really don't want to be dancing. So that could be a little too woo-woo for you, but you know, everything that you eat is a direct correlation to your thoughts, your thinking, the way that you feel, and what you're surrounded by. Period. End of story. Okay. Well, I got to wrap it up. I got to get upstairs. Colin, I just saw a text message come up and says, are you done yet? So I promised him, I said, I won't be that long, I promise. So thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, feel free to share this. This is number 9 of 15 of my 5-week challenge. I promised 3 lives a week. This week I will be doing 4. So that means between tomorrow and Sunday, you will be getting 3 more lives coming at you. I hope that you found this valuable. Please comment below with your biggest takeaways. If you're part of the challenge, you will also be sharing that information if you choose this one to write about. But I do like to find out, you know, what is resonating with you. I'd like to understand what you know, who is listening, and what it is that your biggest takeaways are, because then that helps me to provide more value to you at the end of the day. Okay, so have a wonderful night. We'll see you soon. Bye.